Oh, buenas noches, amigos, amigos hermosos y maravillosos. Bienvenidos. I'm laughing because I just discovered that I made the first version of this video with no audio track. Oh, yes. Now I get to do it again. That is excelente, maravilloso. Well, 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 well. Unit 5, the home, is the theme. And I will also say that it's got some hugely important grammar in it that's going to change your Spanish life. Let's take a look. I'll try to go fast this time since the last video was like 33 minutes long. Okay, so let's take a run through of this vocab so you know how to pronounce it. Unidad 5, Spanish for Unit 5, el hogar, remember silent H, the home. We have vocabulario, la casa, el apartamento, el condominio, el hogar, la cocina, la sala, el comedor, el dormitorio, el baño, el pasillo, el sótano, el ático, el garaje, el césped, la piscina, el patio, el jardín. So moving on to things like furnishings, la silla, la mesa, la nevera, la estufa, el horno, el lavaplatos, los gabinetes, la microonda, el tostador, la cafetera, la comida, la basura. Now you can call one another trash. Nice. La lavadora, la secadora, el sillón, el sofá, la alfombra, la lámpara, la luz, los muebles, la cama, las cobijas. For whatever reason, I put that in plural. I could have put it in singular, the blankets, it's plural on your list. La almohada, el escritorio, la cajonera, la bañera, la ducha, el lavamanos, el inodoro, el espejo, la puerta, la ventana, los quehaceres, la aspiradora. You know what? Since that phone was ringing a minute ago, I didn't want to answer it then. I know what it is. It's the recorded Sunday evening message from my kid's school. But I just want to show this off to you because this is really special. Oh, how many people do you know who have a corded phone? That's pretty special, huh? See. I'm down here in the basement man cave tonight. It's actually very wonderful, although it may not appear that way to you in this image. Uh, but I have lots of very cool things down here in my basement man cave. At any rate, where are we? Now, you notice the next chunk of vocabulary on your list is they all end in AR. There's 11 of them. They're what we call AR verbs, and they're going to be absolutely critical in this unit and your Spanish future. They are aspirar, cargar, cortar, doblar, lavar, limpiar, organizar, palear, preparar, sacar, usar, and visitar. You also had a lot of AR verbs in Unit 2 when you use them to talk about likes and dislikes, like me gusta nadar, me gusta bailar, me gusta dibujar, and all of those. Many of those are also AR verbs, and I stuck them in here for review somewhere at the bottom of page 3. So remember this idea of AR verbs. We'll be getting back to it. Let's see. Many of those nouns in there, like washer, dryer, are just like English related to the verbs. So lavar, to wash, lavadora, the washer. You don't have to dry on your list. Secar, to dry, secadora, the dryer, like English. The next chunk of words on your list there, we call them adverbial expressions of frequency. They're how often you do things. Let's take a look. We have a veces, de vez en cuando, mucho, poco, frecuentemente, nunca, siempre, rara vez, and todos los días, every day, a literal all the days. Notice that you have mucho. You've already had that as an adjective. When it's an adjective, it agrees, like tengo muchas amigas. But here it's an adverb. In Spanish, adverbs do not agree. So Fred estudia mucho, Fred studies a lot. Mary estudia mucho, Mary studies a lot. There's no change in mucho because it's modifying how much they study and not the person. Then we have I, H-A-Y, the little three-letter word that means there is, there are, is there, are there. We'll give that some more attention down the road. IK plus infinitive is an expression to say what you gotta do, what one must do. It's what we call an impersonal expression of obligation, like IK lavar el inodoro. One must wash the toilet. And then the other one right after it is tener que plus infinitive. We'll give that some extra explaining. That's a personal expression of obligation by putting that verb tener in the correct person, like yo tengo que estudiar, I have to study. So that was personal and specific to I. Then come a list of people words. They're the full set of Spanish subject pronouns. You've seen some of them before. This is the whole set. You've never seen the whole set at once. We have yo, tú, él, ella. Usted is new to you. You, formal. Nosotros, we. Nosotras, if the we is all female. So nosotros, guys in a mixed group. We. Nosotras, we, all female. Vosotros, y'all. It's so Spanish. Guys are a mixed group. Vosotras, y'all. But it has to be all feminine. Ellos, they, guys are a mixed group. Ellas, they, feminine. And ustedes, y'all, formal. It's so Spanish. And we'll talk about it more down at the bottom of page 2 when we get there. At the top of page 2, you have a lot of conversational helps because, of course, we're always interested in how can we use all of these new words, etc., in conversation. Oh, I see my hat. See that? 7th Regiment. It's one of those so-called drum and bugle corps that I mentioned in a earlier screencast. This one's from Connecticut. So it's an activity, a summertime activity, a certain specific kind of marching band that I was fanatically involved with when I was a young man. Your age. Can you imagine me being a fanatic? That's hard to believe. Okay, so conversation for Unit 5 on page 2. We have, ¿Qué parte de la casa te gusta más? What part of your house do you like more or most? What's your favorite part of the house? ¿De qué color es tu casa? ¿Cómo es tu casa? Mi casa tiene ... Like my house has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, or whatever you want to say. ¿Qué usas para cocinar? What do you use for cook? I'm trying to get you to say something like the stove. ¿Quién saca la basura? Who takes out the trash? ¿Quién prepara la comida? Who prepares the food? ¿Dónde descansas? Where do you rest? ¿Dónde cocinas? Where do you cook? So I'm trying to get you to name those parts of the house. ¿Quién visita tu casa? Who visits your house? Nobody visits my house. Yo no tengo amigos. Estoy triste. ¿A quién visitas? Who do you visit? Then we have con qué frecuencia, literal with what frequency, how often. So you can use those adverbs of frequency like frequently and never and always and all those words. So how often do you use the toaster, vacuum the house, help your parents, load the dishwasher, etc. ¿Qué tienes que hacer hoy is what you have to do today. I'm trying to get you to say I have to fold the laundry or something. ¿Qué hay que hacer todos los días? What must one do every day? For example, the line following, hay que preparar la comida todos los días. One must prepare food every day. ¿Qué tienes en la sala? What do you have in the living room? Tengo un sofá en la sala. I have a couch in the living room. ¿Qué hay en tu cocina? I, that little H-A-Y word. Is there, are there, there is, there are. What is there in your kitchen? Hay una estufa en mi cocina. There's a stove in my kitchen. And this last chunk is working with this I word, H-A-Y. How many plural noun are there in some other noun? Like how many days are there in a week? So you see the pattern there, and I use as an example of how many days are there in February. ¿Cuántos días hay en febrero? Hay. The funny little word that means there is, there are, is there, are there. And then your answer to that question is hay plural noun en some other noun. Like hay 28 días en febrero. There are 28 days in February. Okay, so that was the vocab and the conversation items. Now we're going to dive into some very important grammar. By far your most extensive and important grammar of the year. But first, my Colombian armadillo. Oh, nice. See, I like to go to secondhand and antique stores here in the United States. There's a couple of my favorites in Haverhill. In a Blue Moon, right next to the parking garage in downtown Haverhill, and Vintage View, a little bit further out towards the highway on the main drag in Haverhill. So when I went to my last trip to Colombia, I said, do they have such things as secondhand stores and antique stores here? And so I bought this little baby, a brass armadillo, on my last trip to Colombia. Oh, nice. Look what's inside of it. Nada! All right. Those are things that I do to randomly ask you questions in the screencast to force you to watch this video. But now, the important part, the grammar at the bottom of page 2. It introduces subject pronouns. Those are words like I, you, he, she, and what I call the box of 6. That's my name for it, but all Spanish teachers do the box of 6. It's a certain structure of arranging those people like I, you, he, she in a certain 6-pack structure that then later in the year you get verbs and other parts of grammar in that same 6-pack. So you get 6-packs down the road where the upper left one always goes with I, as you see in this box at the bottom of page 2. The center left one always goes with you, and so on. You'll see what we mean in the future. First, let's look at these subject pronouns. Yo is I in Spanish. Let's all say, yo. Not capitalized unless it is the first letter of a sentence, unlike English I that is always capitalized. Tú. Tú. Tú, 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 tú. Two with a written accent means you. Two with no written accent means your. They're pronounced identically. So this is two with a written accent. It's you for one person with whom you're on a familiar, friendly basis. Next box, lower left. El with a written accent means he. With no written accent, it means the. Ella, she, and here's a new one for you, usted. It's you formal. What do I mean you formal? Well, it's so Spanish, although other languages have it too. It's you with a sir, ma'am overtone, is how I like to put it. So tú is you, my buddy, warm, fuzzy, you, my wonderful friend. And usted is you with a sir, ma'am tone. In the fancy department store, the clerk would call your mother or father usted. Formal, you. You, sir, or ma'am. Right-hand side of the box of 6. Do you notice that on the right-hand side of the box of 6, everybody's plural? On the left side, everyone is singular. The right side is like the plural of the left side. So the upper right one is nosotros. That means we, for guys or a mixed group. There's an all-female version, which is nosotras. Notice how I, which is in the upper left, is a part of we, which is in the upper right. The right side is the plural of the left side. Vosotros is y'all. It's so Spanish. It's the plural of tú. It's you for more than one person with whom you're on a friendly basis. If I was speaking in Spanish in school, I could be using this all the time with you, that y'all need to study more, and so forth. Vosotros, guys are a mixed group. Vosotras, if the group is all female. Lower right, it's the plural of the lower left. Ellos, they for guys or a mixed group. Ellas, they, but it has to be all female. And ustedes, y'all formal. It's the plural of usted. It's y'all with a sir, ma'am overtone. This is awesome. Look at that. There's 4, or you could even say 5 versions of you on that chart. Tú, you friendly, usted, you formal, vosotros, you friendly plural with a feminine version, and ustedes, you formal plural, y'all formal. It's so Spanish. This is really special, amigos. Now, there's some things you need to understand here, that you might be in one of these boxes without actually using one of those words. For example, lower left, él, he. Well, your sentence might not say, he washes uh, the dishes. That's actually, dishes aren't on your list. But anyway, dishwashers. You could say, he loads the dishwasher, or Fred loads the dishwasher, or the boy loads the dishwasher. You're in the same box. What I'm saying is you're in that lower left box, whether you say he or Fred or the boy. You understand this. You do that all the time in English. Upper right box, it's we, but you might not actually say we. You might say you and I. You and I clean the house. In other words, we clean the house. You would be in that box to get the verb form that is going to be in that box that's coming up next, although you didn't say we. Uh, Down in the lower right, they. Well, if you said Fred and Bobby clean the house, that's a they, although you did not say they. Getting all that? So you need to think all the time about what part of the box of 6 are you in. One more note, that vosotros, familiar plural you, is used chiefly in Spain and literature. Literature uses where in English you'd be using poetical language. It's not used in normal day-to-day conversation and writing in Spanish America, in the New World, Mexico and Argentina and all of those countries. In those countries, ustedes is the only plural you. In other words, in Spain, tú pluralizes to vosotros, usted to ustedes, just like your chart says, very easy to understand. But in this hemisphere, whether you're talking to someone friendly, tú, or formal, usted, the only plural you is down in the lower right, ustedes. They don't differentiate between friendly and formal y'all in the Americas, although they do differentiate between friendly and formal singular you. Got all that? Nice. This is not going to come up a lot in your class, actually. You'll see it in some of our readings and so forth, but we're not going to really drill down on this and attempt to get mastery of it, to have you get mastery of it. But you'll see it, and so you'll recognize it when you see it, we hope. Moving on to page 3 and applying this box of 6. This is very important. Remember the soy, eres, es, and in Unit 4 we added son. So yo soy de Mexico, tú eres de Mexico, Fred es de Mexico. Well, really that verb exists in the whole box of 6. Like on page 3, you see nosotros somos de Mexico. We are from Mexico. It's the rest of the box of 6 for that verb that you've not seen until today. So those are pronounced soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. And the verb has a name, which is ser. Ser is what we call its infinitive version. You'll hear that word infinitive again later in the screencast. Also there you have the box of 6 for tener, to have. Tener is what we call the infinitive version. And there you see its 6 parts. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. And some of those aren't new to you, and some of them are. So, for example, nosotros tenemos un perro, we have a dog. So the names of those verbs like ser and tener, those are what we call the infinitive versions of the verbs. And when you put them through the box of 6 and change them into the I form, you form, he form, we call that conjugating. To conjugate the verb, or the conjugated parts of the verb ser. You'll hear language like that being used. And remember, as it tells you in the center of page 3, amigos, it is so Spanish to very frequently leave out those pronouns, the subject pronouns. So tengo un perro, it's very common to leave out the yo. In the top 4 boxes, you can leave it out all the time. Like tenemos un perro, that's we have a dog, although I didn't say we. I left out the nosotros we word. And in the lower left, lower right, you can leave it out once you have context. So in the center of page 3, you see an example. Jose y Juan son vecinos, son amigos también. Jose and Juan are neighbors. Unspoken they are friends too. Very common. And now, bottom half of page 3, the wonderful world of AR verbs. This is going to change your Spanish life, amigos. So you have 11 on page 1. You got a whole bunch, which are listed at the bottom of page 3. Back in unit 2, like nadar, to swim, bailar, to dance, cantar, to sing. Altogether, you have more than 30 of them. And they all behave or conjugate identically. So what I'm saying is, after this lesson, you can use more than 30 Spanish verbs all of a sudden. Bam! Overnight, you went from very few verbs to now knowing more than 30. Wow! So the way those AR verbs work is the AR ending, that's what we call the ending, the last 2 letters, and the previous part is called the stem. And the way you conjugate them or turn them into their I form, U form, he form, etc., is to take off the last 2 letters, remove the AR ending, and replace it with the endings that you see on the lower half of page 3. They are o, as, a, amos, ais, an. So the example I use on page 3 is with usar, to use. That's what we call the infinitive version. Uso, I use. Usas, you use. Usa, he, she, or usted uses. Usamos, we use, like usamos la computadora mucho. We use the computer a lot. Usais, y'all use. And usan, they or y'all formal use. So that is a super important, super easy lesson, as long as you understand the box of 6 and which part goes with which person. That's pretty important. And those of you who want to be good at Spanish grammar should really memorize that box of 6 structure. But understanding how to conjugate them is easy. Last 2 letters off, put on those endings. That's how you conjugate all 30 plus of those AR verbs. You might ask, why is the AR there anyway if we're only going to take it off? And what happens that you don't fully understand is that you're going to use the AR version some of the time. For example, you already use it in the gusta thing, like me gusta nadar, I like to swim. Now let's conjugate it. Yo nado todos los días, I swim every day. So yes, you'll use the AR version and more as you go in your Spanish future. At the top of page 4, you have what we call the personal a. So this is when the direct object of a verb is a human, it gets this a before it. It has no English translation. It's distinctive of Spanish grammar. A means at or to most of the time. So the example on your page is yo miro el libro. That's verb mirar. You had it with mirar la televisión in unit 2. To look at, to watch. Yo miro el libro. I look at the book. But if it was a human direct object instead of the book, yo miro a mi padre. So another example would be ayudo en la escuela, I help in the school, but ayudo a mi madre, I help my mother. It gets the personal a if the direct object is a human. What's a direct object? Mr. Cushing, my hero, says a direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action of an action verb. It answers the question who or what about the verb. I look at the book. I look at who or what? The book. That's the direct object. It's not a human. It doesn't need a personal a. I look at Mary. Yo miro a Mary. Now it needs the personal a because Mary is a human direct object. Next, in the center of page 4, those adverbs of frequency, how often you do things. So, nunca, never, goes right before the verb, like yo nunca hablo con ella. I never talk with her, is what it says in the center of page 4. Mucho and poco go after the verb or the object of the verb, like estudio mucho, I study a lot. Uso la computadora mucho, I use the computer a lot. And the others are flexible. Like I always, once in a while I study once in a while. Fred rarely studies, Fred studies rarely. You can move around the other ones. And that brings us to the last topic in the packet at the bottom of page 4. But first, our next random cultural stop. Oh, look at these, amigos. They are naipes. Naipes. Looks like a deck of playing cards. You can probably see here it says Industria Argentina. They're from Argentina. Love being down here in the man cave because it's full of mementos from my long life, many of which of course, have to do with Hispanic stuff. So what these are Spanish-style playing cards. And I even freshened up on Wikipedia for you tonight. You can find them in Wikipedia under Spanish-suited playing cards. Naipes is their name. And regular cards have a different name in Spanish, cartas. Regular playing cards. These are Spanish-style playing cards. Ooh, let's take a look. Oh, interesante. There's 4 suits. In Spanish, it's called la pinta, which also means paint, the suit. So one of the suits is called copas, cups or goblets, copas. Another suit is called bastos, clubs. Say. Another suit is called oro, gold, so they're like gold coins. And another suit is called espadas, or swords. And so these are Spanish-style playing cards. They are still in use today, especially in Spain. So there you have it, another random cultural moment to keep you watching my long screencasts. See, and now this last subject. You have 2 expressions of obligation in this unit, things you gotta do. The first one is called IK plus infinitive. So you learned that I word, we were talking about it, there is, there are, is, there, are there. But when you combine it with K and another verb, what we call an infinitive verb, not conjugated, not put through the box of 6, ending AR, for example, although there are other verbs like ser and tener that end in ER. More on that in another future unit. So IK plus infinitive is an untranslatable, you can't do it word for word, expression of obligation that's impersonal, like English, one must, whatever the verb is. So IK estudiar, one must study. It doesn't mean that you specifically has to study or Fred specifically has to study. It's like one must, or in English impersonal, you gotta. IK estudiar, one must study. So kind of separate it in your head from the I word by itself. There is, there are, is, there, are there, because there's no way you can translate this one word for word. I'm translating it one must, but you see it's not uno musto. It's IK plus infinitive. The second of expression of obligation is tener que plus infinitive. Now, tener, you know that one. That's the tango, tienes, tiene, etc. verb. It's the to have verb. So this is super similar to the English to have to verb expression. In English, we say, I have to study. In Spanish, it's practically identical, but it has that K word in it that is not present in the English version. So this one is personal. You personalize it by conjugating the tener. Yo tengo que estudiar. It is specific that I have to study. Fred tiene que estudiar. That's specific. Fred has to study. So you conjugate the first verb, the tango, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenes, tienen. Now you know it in its 6 parts. Plus K, plus a second verb. Tengo que limpiar la casa. I have to clean the house. See, amigos? And then there comes some exercises. Nice. Activities 1 and 2 on conjugating AR verbs. Activity 3, conjugating AR verbs plus using those adverbial expressions of frequency. Activity 4, using I, there is, there are. So it exercises that format of how many months are there in a year? There are 12 months in a year. And there are some samples and directions there to make sure you can do it. On 7, the IK plus infinitive, page 7, the IK plus infinitive and tener que plus infinitive is taught again. And then activities 5, 6, and 7 have to do with those. Activity 5, say what one must do with IK plus infinitive. You make them up. out of your head. Activity 6, say what some specific person or people have to do with tener que plus infinitive, like Fred and Mary have to study. And activity 7 is how to get out of invitations. Many times the we form of the verb in Spanish is used like an invitation, like shall we or let's. So, miramos televisión, shall we watch TV? But you don't like this person. You want to get out of this. You want to make an excuse. So you say, no, tengo que estudiar. No, I have to study. And there's a few more there for you to do. Shall we listen to music? Shall we ride skateboards? Shall we talk on the phone? Shall we swim in my pool? Shall we buy clothing in Forever 21? And for each one of them, I'm asking you to make an excuse to get out of it by saying, no, I have to vacuum the house or whatever. Okay, amigos, welcome to Unit 5, Life Changing, and hasta luego, hasta la bye-bye, ciao pescado, see you later, alligator, see you soon, silly loon.